Hey there, and welcome to part 2 of the Adipose and Lewis Destruct's Little Big Planet tutorials, looking at our own level in pursuit of the Meddling Magpie. If you haven't played the level yet, go and play it now, because this part is going to contain massive spoilers and solutions to some of the puzzles. So please, please, please play the level before you watch this. Okay, so here we are in create mode. And this is the opening cutscene when you come out of the house and the magpie steals the ruby ring. As you can see, the house is covered with sound effects and switches, but they are all activated by this little contraption up here. And what this is, in the middle bottom, you can see there's a piston with a key attached to it, and that key will slowly extend and activate all the magnetic keys switches that are above it. So the cutscene is basically a sequence of switches. The first one does the voice, the second one does the music. In fact, I'll activate it for you here. So I've just jumped on the proximity switch that starts the piston moving. And as that piston extends, it's going to activate the music, it's going to bring up the magpie, it's activated another speech bubble, it's going to dissolve the front doors. Hopefully you can just about see there the lights going on those keys as that piston extends. So that's how we made our cutscene. Now let's talk about permanent switches. This is the switch we used in our last tutorial. It uses dissolve, and as I activate it here, the dissolve is going to vanish and it's going to activate the switch. The problem with that is once the dissolve has gone, it's gone. So if you accidentally activate it in create mode, you've got a problem. But I've got two possible solutions for you here. The one on the left is from the Little Big Planet Central logic pack. Search at logic pack to get it. And it uses two sets of magnetic switches, but it's very easy to use. As one piston retracts, the winch holds it tight. But we had a problem with that one because it uses two sets of switches and we were running out of collected object thermo. So I came up with this one, which is an alternative permanent switch. I call it my low therm perm because it uses a very tiny amount of collected objects. It uses floaty on the right, which doesn't need any other materials to stabilize it, and no stiff pistons or anything. And basically, as the witch turns on, which pulls it in, and because floaty stays wherever you put it, it stays exactly where it's placed. So there you go, three different options for permanent switches, depending on what your need is at the time and which of your thermometers are full. Now this is the statue that you'll come across when you're pulling your key across Puzzlewood in search of the magpie. Now this this statue needs to not do anything unless you bring the key to it. So we need it to turn on when you first bring the key past it, and then it needs to be able to dispense keys after that. And this is how we did it. We used a pair of my low therm perms. So when the key is brought past for the first time, they will activate. And when they activate, that also pushes across this AND switch from the Little Big Planet Central logic pack. Basically, there's two parts to it. And when the statue has been activated and the proximity switch is activated, it will dispense a key. This is our butterfly. To show you inside our butterfly, if I take off the decoration, it's basically an LED, a grab switch, and a magic mouth. The LED is on all the time, but I can change the colour to make the butterfly look different, because I can't change the colour of the decoration. And on the other side, we've got a magic mouth, which is connected to the grab switch, and we've got a stiff spring above it. This is one of our waterfalls. We've got a couple in there. This was an unusual design that we hadn't tried before or seen before, so we thought we'd try something a little bit different. If I take the hood off, you can see underneath we've got three big spotlights that are getting brighter and dimmer. And there's also some gas under there as well, so we've got lights that are shining through gas. And the way we got the brighter and dimmer look, you might remember this from the boat tutorial, is we've got a piston pulling a key in and out of a key switch. The key switch is set to speed, and when it's set to speed, then that will make the lights brighter and duller. These are our springy objects. You've probably seen these before. They're just simply a piston set to flipper out. But the tricky bit here, I think, is the sound, because it's hard to get the sound going off exactly as the flipper comes out and get it going with no bugs. So the way I did that is I've set this magnetic key here to inverted. So as the flipper flips out and the key moves away from the switch, it triggers the sound effect. Anything based on a proximity switch for the sound effect can actually go wrong, I found. So there again, as the switch is moved away from the inverted key switch, the sound is then played. So just under the hood here, we can see you've got just a piston. That's all it is, which is attached to the proximity switch. The proximity is set to only look above in the middle of the flipper, and you can see it's set to flipper out there. So it'll take about a second to go down and then flip out. This is a nice simple. It was supposed to be a peach in the early design that you roll down, and as you grab it, it rolls down the slide there. The slightly tricky bit though is if the player happens to fall off, you need it to go back. So what we've got there is a winch which is invisible in game, which is set to direction. So when the player grabs it, the winch will extend, so gravity will pull it down, and then when he releases it, the winch will retract and pull it back up. This is our Magpie. We run past several magpies on our trip through Puzzlewood, and the first few at least get away. So to do that, we put proximity switches on the floor. As the player runs past the proximity switches, it'll trigger some sound effects, a little squawk and a rustle of feathers, which triggers a permanent switch up here, another one of my low therm perms, which you can find one of them in the level. If you play the level, it's one of the prize bubbles if you're after one. The low therm perm triggers the directional output on the piston, which then pulls the Magpie up. These were our teleporters, and the way we did our teleporters, if we again look under the hood, is with a searchlight. We didn't use proximity switches, and the reason why we didn't is because proximity switches work on all three layers, and we wanted the door only to shut when the player was in the layer of the door, and searchlights do that for us. But the slight disadvantage is you normally have to contend with the light that it gives off, although there are ways of avoiding that. So if you look inside here, we can see the normal options of trigger radius and trigger angle. So we've set it up so when the player steps in the door will slide up, and that will also activate a checkpoint, because you can actually activate a distant checkpoint by using a switch. This is how we killed the player, basically on the back of the door. Nice and simply, at the very bottom of the door there is some gas which is stuck to the door, so as it gets pulled up, because gas can travel through solid objects, it will kill the player just as it reaches the top. Now there are ways of using the searchlight that doesn't use the light, and if you look in our lift, in fact we didn't even hide this very well, we've got one of our searchlights in the lift. So again, the lift will only activate when the player is on the back layer. So try it yourself. It's worth fiddling with searchlights. They aren't just for Metal Gear Solid style attacks. You can use them to activate any kind of other part of a level. This is our scenery for the chase. We used the 3D layer glitch there, which is good for those clouds, so the player can't actually interact with the clouds. This is our final Magpie. You can see the ring itself is actually a grab switch, which has been set to on-off, and actually that switch actually does quite a lot, as you'll find out in this tutorial. First of all, it's set to turn on all the emitters, and the emitters will chuck out lots of prize bubbles in various directions, giving us a very spectacular finish. And there you can see the settings of the emitter. And at the very top here you can see how we got it moving. We've got a little glass track, a pair of wheels, a bit of dissolve and a rocket. So when the player grabs the grab switch, the rocket turns on, the dissolve dissolves, and off the bird goes. In the final part of this tutorial, I'll be showing you how the caterpillar works, I'll be showing you how we got the magpie to let go of the ring, I'll be showing you how the water puzzle works, and a few other things as well. We'd love you to play our level. You've got the information on the screen in front of you there. If you could sling us a few stars and a few hearts as you're going, that would be appreciated, but of course only if you think the level deserves it. We're also entering this level in the online Create competition at Little Big Planet Central. So if you think our level is good enough, we'd love your support. But obviously the best level needs to win, whichever one that may be. So take care. I'll see you in part 3.